It's a kind of personal question, but have you yourself or somebody close to you ever told you about sexual assault happening to them?
I really wonder if a girl in India has not been exposed to a situation like that.
I have seen a lot of such cases. A girl, she was celebrating New Year's with her friend, so she took her to her house, and her friend was raped by this girl's father.
Get onto the train, whenever we get down from the train, people touch us inappropriately. My mom always has taught me that you should always protect your body. People move their hands just to touch some of our body parts. So this is like so crazy. This incident has happened 3 times in local with me. It just freezes my mind for some time and I'm not able to think, and I'm really shook from this.
There have been instances in everyone's close family circles or a close friend circle or something where somebody would have faced an assault. I think it's more important that these things are sensitized about, and at the same time equal measures are taken so that these things can stop at an immediate response.
Dr. Mumita Debnath, a 31-year-old doctor trainee, was found dead on August 9, 2024. After taking a break halfway through a 36-hour shift, her corpse was found on a blood-stained mattress. Her body bore the wounds of torture from the wounds in her eyes, her pelvis, genitals, arms, and legs. As noted in the Publica's report, the post-mortem report also noted that over 150 milligrams of semen was recovered from the doctor's body, indicating that up to 30 men could have been involved in the violation of Debnath's body. The normal volume of semen produced by a male upon ejaculation typically varies from 1.5 to 5.0 milligrams, according to the online medical encyclopedia Medline Plus. Her family was told that she died via suicide, though her wounds made it obvious that this was not the case. However, this claim allowed the principal of the school to avoid filing a police report. The attempts to hide the crime did not succeed and have resulted in protests across India and the medical industry there, both in response to the lack of protections for medical staff and because of the attempt to hide the crime.
This Indian woman doctor was raped and murdered, and people are demanding justice. The 31-year-old trainee doctor was raped and murdered in the early hours of Friday, August 9th, inside a government-run medical college and hospital in Kolkata, West Bengal. On Thursday, August 8th, after working for 36 hours, she had gone to rest in the hospital seminar room at around 2 a.m. The next morning, her colleagues found a semi-naked body in the room. Police said she was bleeding from her eyes, mouth, and genital area and also sustained injuries in other parts of her body. Authorities also found a large amount of semen in her body, suggesting that she was likely gang raped, according to local media. Police used a torn Bluetooth headphone left at the scene to track down and arrest Sanjoy Roy, a 33-year-old police volunteer who had been helping with patients and surgeries at the hospital. Authorities have launched an investigation into the incident, and Roy will remain in custody for questioning. The news has sparked nationwide outrage, with thousands of doctors and students protesting and going on strike, demanding justice for the victim as well as better security measures in healthcare facilities. Meanwhile, in response to the mounting pressure, the principal of the medical college has resigned but was quickly appointed as the principal of another government medical college, which sparked more protests. Follow for more stories from around the world.
In the aftermath, searches for footage of Debnath's gang rape have trended, as according to Google Trends, queries such as Mumita Debnath porn and Dr. Mumita Debnath video have experienced surges across India, with Mumita Debnath rape video experiencing a 110% increase in searches. At the time of this writing, of all the queries associated with her name, Mumita Debnath photo video is the 5th most searched in India, while Mumita Debnath less video is the 12th most searched overall.
8 people have been arrested for allegedly raping a 16-year-old girl in the Indian state of Maharashtra. The victim, in a statement to the Child Welfare Committee, said she was raped by 400 people. Speaking to CNN, an official from the committee said that the minor had been begging at a bus stop and was forced into sex work by 3 men who also allegedly raped her. The police have registered a case under Special Act for the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences and under Rape and Molestation sections of the Indian Penal Code. A case under the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act has also been registered. She was married to a 33-year-old man at the age of 13 and has alleged that he sexually abused her. The 16-year-old has also named 2 police personnel in a statement to the Child Welfare Committee for sexual abuse. The local police refused to comment on this allegation when contacted by CNN. Despite legal reforms introduced after horrific gang rape in India's capital in the year 2012, government data indicates a rape takes place roughly every 17 minutes in India. The backlog of cases is also astonishingly high in India. According to the Indian government, there were over 240,000 pending cases in courts related to rape and sexual offences against minors till December.
This isn't the only horrific case of gang rape, torture, or extreme violence against women. In fact, back in 2023, Vidya Krishnan wrote an opinion piece published in the New York Times on the topic titled, "In India's Gang Rape Culture, All Women Are Victims," where she writes, "It is the specific horror of gang rape that weighs most heavily on Indian women that I know. You may have heard of the many gruesome cases of women being gang raped, disemboweled, and left for dead. When an incident rises to national attention, the kettle of outrage boils over, and women sometimes stage protests, but it passes quickly. All Indian women are victims, each one traumatized, angry, betrayed, exhausted. Many of us think about gang rape more than we care to admit. In 2011, a woman was raped every 20 minutes in India, according to government data. The pace quickened to about every 16 minutes by 2021, when more than 31,000 cases were reported, a 20% increase from the previous year. In 2021, 2,200 gang rapes were reported to authorities. But those grotesque numbers tell only part of the story. 77% of Indian women who have experienced physical or sexual violence never tell anyone, according to one study. Prosecutions are rare. Indian men may face persecution because they are Muslims, Dalits, untouchables, or ethnic minorities, or for daring to challenge the corrupt powers that be. Indian women suffer because they are women. Soldiers need to believe that war won't kill them, that only bad luck will. Indian women need to believe the same about rape, the trust that we will come back to the barracks safe each night, to be able to function at all. Just from memory, I can recall several other horrifying cases in India. In a rare case of justice, in May 2024, a pair of brothers were sentenced to death for the rape and murder of a 12-year-old girl. To hide the crime, they then burned her alive in a coal furnace. And back in 2012, 22-year-old Jyoti Singh was beaten, gang raped, and tortured in a private bus in which she was traveling with her male friend. And there were 6 others in the bus, including the driver, all of whom raped the woman and beat her friend. She later succumbed to her wounds while her friend supposedly committed suicide, though many believe he was murdered. Many rape cases in India end with the woman dead. It is horrifying to me from across the globe to know that women live under constant threat of sexual assault, and while all assaults are horrific, the cases which break into the international newssphere from India are especially cruel and disturbing. It is the culmination of a deeply traditional and patriarchal society, wherein the devaluation of women is compounded with caste and religious issues, along with the rise of pornography. Porn is the instruction and rape is the practice, though clearly there was no need for instruction in India. Famous cases also include the Suranelli rape case, where in 1996 a 16-year-old was lured with a marriage promise, kidnapped, and was raped by 37 men during her 40-day captivity. Although initially 35 of 39 involved were found guilty, in 2005 all 35 convicted were acquitted of charges. There was also the Paria mass rape, where in 1988 at least 14 women were gang raped by the police force and had their homes looted after they protested being removed to make way for a dam being built. India Today reported Singha's concluding statements, the judge, where it cannot be ruled out that these ladies might speak falsehoods to get a sum of 1,000 rupees, which was a huge sum for them. And of course, none of the police involved went to jail. In many caste altercations, women are targeted because to rape a woman is not done just to her, but it's meant to be an insult to the community and the community's honor. In an environment where religious and social conflict occurs often, women are especially vulnerable as targets of sexual violence. However, what the internet has provided is an avenue to share the debasement and horror of gang rape with other men. It prolongs the suffering and harm to the victim and her family, but also serves as a warning to other women and as an enticement to other men. Come, they say, look at what we did. See how we were despicable and got away with it? You can too.
Thinking about taking a vacation to India? Maybe leave the wife and kids at home until they wrap up this problem they're dealing with. So this is just the latest horror story in the brutal hard R-ings that are going on in India right now. This one was bad. A tourist was camping with her husband and she was gang raped by a bunch of dudes. And they have 3 out of 7 in custody right now. Simple math, that's less than half. I really wish that I could say that this was the worst story that's been coming out of there in the last few years, but it's definitely not. India is seeing an average of 90 hard R-ings a day. In 2022, 11 men were arrested because they grabbed a 13-year-old girl, brutally gang raped her, tortured her, and paraded her through the streets of Delhi. In 2021, a 34-year-old woman was literally gang-ard to death. In fact, these types of incidences are so common over there that their system is overloaded with them and they rarely end up ending in convictions. So maybe just avoid vacationing in India until they can get their shit together.
Earlier this year, a 28-year-old tourist and her husband were robbed, then the guy was beaten, and the woman raped by 7 men. Since they have taken down the video detailing the event from their social media, I'm not going to show that there or go deeply into detail. However, in the reactions to the incident, one can note a pattern of behavior not just from Indian men, but also Indian women. The BBC reported the chief of India's National Commission for Women, Rekha Sharma, also sparked criticism after she responded to a post from a U.S. journalist who wrote that while India was one of his favorite places, the level of sexual aggression he witnessed while living in the country was unlike anywhere else I've ever been. He also gave a couple of examples of sexual assault faced by women that he knew. Did you ever report the incident to police? Ms. Sharma wrote. If not, then you are totally an irresponsible person. Writing only on social media and defaming a whole country is not a good choice.
A single woman traveled alone to India and was immediately surrounded by a group of men as soon as she got off the train. She thought it was their way of welcoming her, not realizing she was in danger. On June 13th, a very beautiful girl with smooth skin was walking on the streets of India, and the men around her all looked at her with unusual eyes. She thought it was because of her attractive appearance, not realizing she had drawn their attention. In the afternoon, the girl visited a local scenic spot. Tired after a day of sightseeing, as she was about to leave, she noticed a man following her. While walking and taking photos, she quickly realized that this man was looking at her with malicious intent. At that moment, she felt the danger. But those men were determined not to let her go because she was in their sights. Terrified, she started to run, fearing for her life. Hearing her cries for help, passers-by quickly came to her aid, and she luckily escaped the danger.
Victim blaming is constant and serves as a deterrent from seeking help, reporting incidents, or enacting change. In the aftermath of the 2019 gang rape and murder of 27-year-old Priyanka Reddy, Indian filmmaker Daniel Sharavan ranted on social media that the government should encourage and legalize rape without violence, and girls above 18 should be educated on rapes and not deny the sexual desires of men. He also went on to say that rapists are not finding a way to get their bodily desires met, which is compelling them to kill. Because assault and violence against women is so common in India, it makes sense that victim blaming from both sexes remains so strong. As according to Inside Southern, the reason for victim blaming is people may blame a victim in order to remove themselves from an unpleasant event and therefore confirm their own invulnerability to the risk. Others may perceive the victim as different from themselves if they label or accuse the victim. People console themselves by saying, because I'm not like her and I don't do that, this would never happen to me. In other words, it's a pacifier. A way to manage the dread that comes with realizing the ubiquitousness and unpredictability of sexual assault.
In a recent study, Delhi was listed as one of the most unsafest places for women in any metropolitan cities, along with India being one of the most dangerous countries for women behind countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan. Why do you think that is, despite India being one of the most fastest developing countries in the world?
So the family I come from and the places I go to, I think I have access to a lot of things. I have access to car, a phone and stuff like that to keep myself safe. And I've been to a school and college where, we've been taught these things. Like I know how to protect myself, but not everybody can do that.
You also have accessibility to get these resources to help prevent.
Absolutely, because when I was going to my school, or when I'm going to college, I'm walking down. I'm not really walking down a road myself. I'm going in a car and stuff like that with a safe driver. So I don't personally feel unsafe very often. But then there are these small little girls who do, walk these narrow streets in some rural places, and guys are doing what all. It's horrible.
How do you think topics like rape and sexual harassment get discussed in Indian households and friend circles?
Yeah, see, earlier this was a taboo. Nobody used to discuss it. Now, even the social media, the OTT platforms, these topics can be discussed in front of family with the daughters. And being a mother of two daughters, my one daughter is in US, so I'm not worried about her, but the other one is in Delhi. So I do take care of it, that she should come to me with anything. I should also discuss with her. So there's no more a taboo.
In a hush-hush manner. Because it's like something you're not supposed to be aware of. And something like sexual education only comes into the dining table discussions when you feel that your girl is maturing. But the thing is, it's not about maturation, because I never knew about good touch and bad touch when I was young. But something happened with me in my own house. And I came out about it like 6 years later. First reaction was that, I didn't know, why didn't you come out to us sooner or later than later? I was scared. How am I supposed to trust you at that point of time? And the thing is, the reaction I got was that maybe some action would be taken. And it was taken for a short period of time. But over time, I was told that you have to normalize it, but you have to move on. How can I move on with something so scary that happened with me, which still continues to affect me even today? So I think those things continue to happen with other women also, because they are told that you are to be blamed for what you're wearing.
If there is something that you can do to avoid being assaulted, then it must be her fault. And you must be safe because you don't make those choices. That men make up a large contingent of the judges and lawmakers that in turn pass the laws which allow rapists to walk free illustrates the universal truth that Anna Maria Mazzani, a popular Italian feminist theorist, wrote about in 1895. You will find that the priest who damns you is a man, that the legislator who oppresses you is a man, that the husband who reduces you to an object is a man, that the libertine who harasses you is a man, that the capitalist who enriches yourself with your ill-paid work and the speculator who calmly pockets the price of your body are men. It's easy to forget when the violence is not happening in front of you, when you can excuse it or look away or claim that there are forces at play that you don't understand. It's easy to say that the problem is with a people or a religion, but the truth is that woman hating is universal. It just manifests differently depending on where you go, in creative and horrifying ways around the world. This is why intersectionalism is important, and I mean intersectionalism in the way it was originally intended. Indian women suffer because they are women, but the manner in which they suffer is particular to their race, to their religion, to their caste. And in order to address those concerns and those issues, it's important to understand that those needs, the solutions to those problems, are going to be different than the ones that we face in Western countries, or in Eastern countries, or any other country. And yet, the plight of Indian women still falls under the purview of feminism, because they are women, because they are oppressed for their sex. And I find it important to at least acknowledge what is going on in India, the problems that they face. And even if you cannot support in a material way, at least knowing that they are going through something horrible, at least knowing is something. This, dear viewers, is where we part. I've always had a fascination with India. I read a lot of books set there when I was a kid, although they were also depressing. And throughout high school and college, I worked for a number of Indian families, first at a restaurant and then as nannies. And I always did love working for those families because they were always well-paid jobs, they were always great families, their kids were well-behaved, and I've always wanted to visit India. But I don't think I can ever go, especially because I'm a solo traveler, when pretty much every news story you hear is about some horrific crime that happened to a woman there. The truth is that in some cultures, men are more sexually aggressive than others. Part of it is that people act different in different situations. If you come to Cambodia, you'll see plenty of old white dudes going after what are very clearly young women and acting in a way they might not act if they were back in the UK or the US. And similarly, you have the issue with African immigrants here who tend to be very aggressive in trying to pick up women at bars. They won't leave you alone. They will stalk you down the street. And of course, I know that the treatment that I receive here as a woman is going to be different than if I was in Africa or if I was in India or in whatever other country. But I find it important to point out how some cultures basically glorify male violence against women. And the thing is, culture is social. It's something that can be unlearned. And it's not something that is innate. I hate that when people tend to discuss issues like this, they'll point it out as if it's just impossible to fix the problem. Indians are just like that, and they'll never get any better, and so it's, they just hate women there, and that's just how it is, so you can't do anything. No. I'm not going to excuse misogyny because misogyny is embedded in their culture. Misogyny is embedded in every culture. It doesn't mean that women aren't suffering or that it's okay. Anyhow, the specific case with the doctor is just disturbing. I was at the store buying alcohol, and I look at a bottle and it's 150 milligrams, and it made me want to be sick. That case makes me sick. Anyhow, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.